Hey everyone, Val here. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make a Christmas stocking. So if you want to make a Christmas stocking that looks like this, and these are small, so we're going to be making a small one, then watch this video. So first of all, you want to pick out the material that you want. So I've picked out this material. Now this material is not cotton, and it does have some stretch to it, and as you can see, it is a little bit see-through, but that's okay. I had this material and I wanted to find something to do with it, so I thought it'd be perfect for the little Christmas stockings that I'm making. So you have to have a template. So make a template whatever size you want the stocking to be. I have a smaller one that I use for the little gift card stockings, and this is the size I cut for those. You can see this is a little bit bigger than a gift card stocking, so maybe somebody could put maybe a little bit of candy or some treats in there with a gift card, or maybe a piece of jewelry or something like that in there. This fabric has a border on it that doesn't have the sequins on it. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to start my stocking here so that there's a little bit of a plain border at the top of the stocking, and then it starts the sequins. So as you can see with the finished one, we have that border on the top, and then we have some sequins. Now I do want to make a little handle so they can hang up the stocking if they want to. So I'm going to cut my stocking starting here, and the extra material left over I'm going to use for my handle. So let me show you how this is going to be done. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pin my template onto the material, and this material is turned over, and the inside, the right sides are facing each other. So I'm going to pin this onto there so that you have both the right sides facing each other. You have two pieces that you're going to sew together. So pin that together and then cut out around the outsides of your template. And when you get that done, it's going to look like this. So you still have your right sides facing each other. You've cut it out. Your both pieces should match, and you have the two pieces. Now, as for the border up here, once you've cut this out, you have the border piece. So what I've done is I've taken the border piece and I've put it onto my chart, and I've cut it out 1.5 inches. So I want 1.5 inch strip going up. So I've cut out my 1.5 inch strip, and this is what the strip looks like. So you have two pieces because you have your materials facing each other. So you have a front and a back. All you really need is one piece for the handle, because you're going to double it over, and this is going to be your handle, right? So you need one piece 1.5 inches wide. And I've cut these, let me tell you how long I've cut these, because I did take it and I've cut up the whole border. I went up the whole length of the border, so I've cut these into strips. And this one is 1.5 inches by, over that, looks like 6.5 inches. So 1.5 inches by 6.5 inches. That's what I'm using for my handles, and I do have some extra handles here. Alright, and this fabric, like I said, this fabric is stretchy, a little bit, it has a little bit of a stretch to it, and it is see-through, right? So I'm going to want to put an interfacing on this to make it easy to sew and to make it more sturdy, for the stocking to be more sturdy. So I've already put interfacing on the back of one of the strips. I'm going to need that for sewing it together. What I'm going to end up doing here is I'm going to lay these out And the interfacing goes on the back. So you want to separate these and put your interfacing on the back. Now this is iron-on interfacing, so this is the side that I would iron on. So let me get this set up. Alright, so I have the right side of my material facing down because I want to put the interfacing on the back. So I have two stocking, the two front and back of the stocking, and the piece of that I'm going to be using for the handle. And that's sitting here, and I want the back side of that too. And then I'm going to lay the interfacing over top of it. And I do have a cloth on my ironing board. The purpose of the cloth is because there's glitter on this. And anytime I'm using a glitter fabric, I don't want to get the glitter on my ironing board. So I put a towel over it, an old towel, and I use that so I can get glitter on my towel. I can always wash my towel to get the glitter off it. So I put down the interfacing over top. Now when I iron on this, it's going to attach itself to the back of the stocking, each side. So I'm just gonna apply enough heat. I've got my iron on just dry. It's not a steam iron. I'm not putting steam on it. I'm just going to give it enough heat to attach the interfacing to it. And you can go over this several times. Just want to make sure it's on really good. I don't want it coming off. Okay, that should be pretty good. Now when you're ironing these, the interfacing on, make sure you're getting all the corners and edges real good. So you don't want them to start peeling off on the corners and edges, even though it will be stitched. So, but just to get it set up good, you want to make sure you've got all your corners and edges. Now this will just peel off the blanket or off the towel. Don't want to rip it. Be careful we don't rip it. I'm just peeling it back, okay? And then where the interfacing stops, I'm going to take my scissors and just save as much interfacing as you can, because you're going, you don't want to waste your products. So I don't want to waste my products. All right, so this is what it looks like. So again, you're going to have to cut it out because you've got your interfacing on there that's going to keep this nice and strong. So I'm going to go back through and cut this out again, just so that we have a pretty clean cut here. So let me get this done and we'll come back and sew one of these together. I have the front and the back of the stocking cut out, and the little handle piece I'm going to use for the handle. As you can see, it is now lined with has the interfacing on the back of it. We do want to put liners in our stockings. I always put the liners in my stockings to give them a finished look. This one has a red liner in it. And the white one here has a white liner in it. Gives it such a pretty finished look. So I do want to have a liner in this stocking that I'm creating here. So I have this red material that is, again, it's not cotton, but it's a thicker material. This is what I have. I kind of use what I have in my craft room. I'm not going to go buy anything special. I'm just going to try to use some things that I have that I probably don't have a lot of uses for this material. I bought this to make a little doll dress, and I had a lot of this material left over. I always buy extra just for little projects like this. So I'm going to use this material. This won't have to be lined because it's already a thick material and it's pretty stiff. This is going to be our liner. We don't have to interface this. So I'm going to cut 2 pieces of stocking, the front and the back, for my lining. And we'll come back and we'll put this stocking together. I have all the pieces on my board here for the Christmas stocking. As you can see, I have the interfacing on the back of the glitter ones because they're thin and they were see-through. But these are heavier, so I don't have to put interfacing on those. I just want to make sure that I have them put together. You want the right sides together, and then I have my pins, and I'm just going to pin them so that they don't shift when I'm sewing them. I want to make sure that my edges are together. Pin them going in like that, and then I want to make sure all of my edges are together good. I'm going to just put pins in there in a couple of different places. I'm going to have to round these corners here, so I want to put some pins on the corners. So probably about 5 pins. That's going to be enough in there. That's usually what I do, about 5 pins. And I'm going to do the same with the outside. This will be the lining of the stocking. I want to make sure that these match, and as you see, these aren't cut to match very well. So what I'm going to do is, I'm not sure how I got that far off on these, but I'm going to put them together, and I do want to make sure that they match the lining, that the lining at least matches this small one, and it does. So what I'm going to do, because you don't want the lining to be larger than the stocking itself. So let me pin this stocking, and then I'm going to trim this up. For some reason this ended up a little bit wider, so I'm just going to trim off the excess to make it easier for sewing. I'm not sure how it got out of proportion there, but let me just trim this little edge here, and then I'm going to trim up around the foot. You just want to make sure that the lining is the same size, because if the lining ends up bigger, then it's not going to fit into the stocking right. So we want to make sure that they end up the same size. All right, so we have the outside, the inside lining, and the handle. We're going to go over to the sewing machine and put these together. I have the handle, and what you're going to do is want to fold it one time right to the center on one side, and then fold it the other side into the center. So you have 2 folds meeting in the center, and then flip it over. So there you're going to have the handle is going to look like that. I'm going to put it underneath your presser foot. So I'm lining it up, the edge of the fabric, right along the inside of the presser foot there. And I'm going to stitch down right along the edge so that you're coming in about this far. Now I'm going to bring those over so it's not quite as far off. I'm going to try to match those up so that they're pretty even on the edge. And I'm going to stitch all the way down here. And then just as you're going along, I don't pin this. You can pin this if you want to, but as I'm going along, I'm just gonna keep putting it together. Making sure that when I stop, my needle's in the material so that if I do pull on the material, it's not gonna move it. And there's our handle. So we're gonna turn it over and our handle will look like that. We're gonna stitch our stockings now. I have the lining of the stocking first, and I'm going to set this right on the edge of the presser foot. So that's gonna mark my seam, the edge of the presser foot here. All right. And I'm just going to follow the seam along with the side of the presser foot. As I come to the pins, I'll take them out. So we have a stitched edge along the entire lining. We're going to do the same thing with the outside of the stocking. Now on the edges of these, you do have a little curve right here. If you want to clip into the curve just a little bit, I do like one up here and one down here. Just a little clip. You don't want to cut into the stitching, but just to help this to turn. And I do it again on the lining, just to help it to turn inside out. Okay. So what we're going to do, we want to leave this just like this. We have the right side inside. This is the right side of the stocking. This one is inside out. So we're going to turn this right side out. Just like that. These are small, so it's a little difficult for your hand to fit in, but just do the best you can there. All right, so you have one stocking turned inside out, or turned right side out. This is the lining. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to leave this one inside out, because you want right sides together. So this is the right side, the inside of this is the right side. So I'm going to put the right sides together. So I'm going to stick this stocking inside of this stocking. Usually when I get it down towards the toe of the stocking, I'll grab a hold of it here, kind of hold the lining, and then just pull the stocking up. It's not having to be perfect, because we're going to pin it. And then it's not going to stay this way anyway. So I want you to look here. Let me try to turn this around. Well, okay. All right, in the stocking, inside of the stocking, you want your edges to meet. Okay, the lining you want to meet with the outside. You want the back seam with the back seam even. And then I'm going to place a couple pins in here about an inch from the seam. I'm going to put the first pin here. And then about an inch on this side of this seam, I'm going to put a pin right there. And I'm putting them on the inside of the stocking, the pins, because I'm going to be sewing from this side here. So your seams are lined up. Make sure they're lined up. Make sure the top of the stocking seams are lined up. Then we're going to turn it to the front. Make sure that this is the seam you're going to leave open, the back seam, the back of the stocking. So the front seam, again, you want to line it up with the front seam. Just lay your seams down, it doesn't matter which way they go. And put a pin right in there. Okay, if this stocking was bigger, you could put a pin along the side, but just make sure that your stockings, the seams, the edges are lined up to the edge, and there's not a whole lot of overlapping. They should be the same size. And this stocking came out really well where they're the same size. So when I want to start sewing, I'm going to start where the first pin is, right here. And I want to line this seam right with the edge of the presser foot. Make sure all your seams are together. And I'm going to go around the stocking, just turning it as I go and, you know, making sure my seams are even there. I'm going to trim my string so it doesn't catch on something. I'm at the front of the stocking. I'm going to take this pin out now that I've made it to the front. I'll keep going. Until I hit this pin that's about an inch from the back seam. I'm going to stop where this pin is and just, that's my stopping point right there. I'm going to trim my string. So this leaves a gap right here. I didn't sew all the way to the seam. I stopped an inch on either side of the seam. This will allow me to turn this stocking in the right side out because I just sewed it inside out. So let's flip this stocking. I'm going to start by pushing the lining out. I'm going to just pull it out the hole. So there's my lining. And then I'm going to go to the, kind of bring this down to the toe of the stocking. And take the toe and push the toe out the hole. And work it out. Alright, so I have the right side of my stocking. Just kind of pull it out. There we go. Make sure there's no holes in it. I didn't miss anything when I was stitching. If I did, I can turn it back the other way and restitch it. And then I have my lining. So I'm going to tuck my lining inside because it's going to be the right side in, out now. Inside out. Alright, so I just push it down there the best I can. Excuse my cold here. Down to the toe of the stocking. I can readjust it after I'm finished stitching the top. But I want to make sure that my lining and the top are even. So you may have to push the one side or the other back up or down. But if you see the lining is right there even with the stocking, this is the front of the stocking. I'm going to put a pin on the inside right there to keep these edges together. And then I'm just going to kind of press around the whole stocking, making sure the edges are together. So I want a nice even liner on there, and then I get to the back. Alright, so I want to make sure that my seam is pushed to one side, and I want to bend the material over, because that would have been sewed down anyway. My seam over there, and here, let me. Alright, so I got my material bent over, got my seams together, and that'll be my back seam. But I need to put the handle in there. So if you need to trim the handle, maybe it's going to be too long, you can trim it. I think mine is fine. I'm just going to stick it inside the seam. Make sure it's lined up nicely. Go down just another little bit there. It doesn't matter how far down inside it is. Should be alright. Alright, now, and get your seams together as close together as you can. And I'm going to stick a pin on this side of the seam, and I'm going to bring it back up through the handle so the handle doesn't move. So it's going in here and it's going across in through the handle so the handle doesn't move. And then I'm going to place another pin on this side of the handle, but not going through the handle, just to keep the material even around. So that's going to be where I stitch. So let me stitch this. So I'm going to start, I don't know if you can see that, but I'm going to start at the handle, like right on top of the handle is where I'm going to do my first stitching, okay? So I'm going to make my seam along the edge, but not quite as far as the presser foot. I'm going to bring it back a little bit like I did the handle. and just line it up towards the inside of the presser foot hole there. So I'm going to go across the handle. I don't want to lose my thread here. I think it should be all right. Yep. All right, across the handle, don't hit the pin, and then go back across it to reinforce it and just to get your stitching right. And then once you hit the pin, you pull the pin out. Don't go over, I don't run over my pins. I mean, you can if you want to, but I don't want to break needles or ruin my pins, so. All right. And then as you're going along, just keep making sure that your lining and the outside of your stocking are even. Make a nice even stitching across. Hit the front of my stocking here. Make sure your handle doesn't loop onto anything. And then when you get back to the handle, I end my stitching on top of the handle so it kind of blends in and I don't have any loose stitching or go over my stitching around the edging. I just do it over the handle. Clip my ends. And there's the stocking. So now I can go inside the stocking, push the lining into where it belongs. Get it in there nicely. Got a couple pieces of lint on it I'm going to pull off. Mercy. And there's your stocking, ready to be hung for Christmas. All right, turned out nice. Thank you all for watching. I enjoyed stitching with you. If there's anything else that you want me to show you how to stitch in my craft room, let me know in the comments below. This is a fun little project. I've made a lot of these for Christmas, for the craft fair, and I've made some larger stockings for the church. You probably saw that in my other videos, but I thought I'd share with you how I make the stockings. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. Give the video a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not subscribed and you want to. And I'll catch you on the next video. Bye now.